You want to, this presentation is being recorded. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for oral health advocacy skill development. We hope you find this useful. I know there's people on here with experience and probably can speak to this at least as well as I can, if not better. But we're going to walk through a few things, including the coalition's legislative priorities for this session, and give you a little opportunity for some Q&A at the end. If the group remains this small, we'll definitely do that. And if you want, we might even let you on camera. But to start with, and I think everybody on here knows this, but the coalition is a 501c3 nonprofit advocacy organization. We do a lot of things that are probably better termed systems kind of change, healthcare systems change, but our wheelhouse really is straight up public policy and trying to make changes with that, all in the service of improving the oral health of the state of Missouri. We have had some great success in those areas, including the reinstatement of adult dental coverage in Medicaid and the more recent increase in dental and Medicaid rates to what is essentially commercial level of rates, meaning that Medicaid pays in the realm of private insurance, which is very helpful. Traditionally, Medicaid rates have been very low, and meaning that for most private practices, doing Medicaid was an opportunity to lose money. That is no longer the case. We very much are about access to care, but we certainly are not of the opinion that a dental provider should lose money every time they see somebody who is accessing care through a public benefit. So we're very pleased with that change, and we are working diligently to support Medicaid providers enrolling in Medicaid. But that is a topic for another discussion. So we're going to launch into this now, and only if my slides will advance. There we go. Kind of covered that, didn't specifically mention the mission. It's stated in a particular way to improve oral health with all Missourians by advocating for sound public policy. The with, and there were some other changes, but the with was kind of a with all Missourians was kind of a nuanced change by that. That's addressing the fact that we're trying to do community engagement and really, pushing to hear from consumers and from community members about access issues and their need for oral health. And our vision is oral health for all Missourians. These are our current policy goals. I'm not going to read through all of these. We play with these a little bit. Sometimes they've been fairly the same set for a couple of years now. At any given time, we can't work on all of these. These are a lot of very big goals, and but we do touch on just about every one of them at one time or another. Strengthening provider networks and expansion of service delivery to dental care for high-risk, vulnerable MoHealthNet and uninsured populations, including people with disabilities and special healthcare needs. That goal, which is the second to the last, really is a lot of what we did with increasing the rates, and it also relates to the fourth goal, improvement of MoHealthNet by implementing best practices and systems improvements to increase provider participation and MoHealthNet participant usage. I will tell you, we have in getting these rates up and then working very closely with MoHealthNet, we've had a very good response from them, and they are doing a lot of things to improve the system so it's easier for providers to get enrolled. We're very glad to see that. So at any given time, we're not focusing on all of these, but I'd say we touch upon these fairly frequently. So advocacy, what is advocacy? Well, at a really basic level, it's just raising awareness about an issue that's important to you. So anytime you contact decision makers, people who are able to set policy, and that includes people at the local level, the state level, and the federal level, and people that are both elected and those that are appointed, you're really showing that oral health is important by having those contacts. And it isn't always about getting in there and having an ask. It can just be purely educational. We find a lot of elected officials are very unaware of the challenges, the access issues that we have in the state around oral health care. So a lot of times we're doing something that isn't even really advocacy. It's just education. Our Office of Dental Health has very good data that shows, really the difficulty in accessing care in a lot of the areas in the state, particularly bad in rural areas. And so providing that kind of information really helps to raise awareness, but it's simply education. But that's very important because they need to know, decision makers that is, need to know that oral health is important to Missourians and it's important to you. And if we're not talking about these things, even in a mild way, it's really easy for oral health to be forgotten about. And there's a long, deep history that many people on here know about, but people don't generally, policymakers and the public do not generally go to thinking about oral health care as a key healthcare component. They think about it as this kind of extra thing. And so when you make these contacts, it really helps to shift that perspective. Oh, this is a health issue. It's a health issue that people care about, and my constituents care about it, and it's a health issue that's important in the state of Missouri, and we have an awful lot of challenges with that. All of those things, even if you're not asking them to vote for a particular bill or do a particular thing, really is excellent to do. So we're talking, this presentation really is very much about the oral health legislative awareness event that we hold the morning of the first day of the conference. So we're going to talk a lot about going up in the Capitol and the kinds of things you need to do. So one of the things you do is do some background research ahead of time. You can find out a lot of stuff online. Every senator and every rep has a bio out there that you can read, and that tells you what's important to them, as does the kind of legislation that they filed. You also want to look at committee assignments. I would say in the past, you'd assume if somebody was assigned to a committee, it was probably an interest area for them. I don't know if that's quite as true. It's, I have heard that this session, there's been quite a lot of assignment to committees that people felt they're not necessarily expert in, but of course they're jumping in there and learning. But there's a photo, you can get the address and the room number there, and you could get a phone number for that office. Most of the time, decision makers understand that they are working, really, whoops, I don't know how that happened, that they were working in a government position to serve the public interest, whether they're elected or just a state employee. I will tell you, we do occasionally run into folks that don't look at it that way. It's always disparaging when an elected person kind of takes the tack that, like, I don't care what you think, I don't need to hear from you. We have had that. It's very rare though. Most of the time they like to hear from their constituents and concerned citizens. Most of the time they will listen to you, even if they disagree with you, they will engage in the conversation. You should, along those lines, a few of the things that I said earlier, think about these contacts in terms of a little bit of longevity. Now, there are term limits, so people aren't going to be around forever, but your contact this year may lead to legislation changes next year. So it isn't all about just pushing really hard and getting them to do what you want them to do right now. It's also about developing a relationship with them. And you never know. The freshman rep that you're talking to this year might end up being in leadership in the coming years in the House and or Senate. And then, you know, they might even end up being governor and or in some other important position in state government. So it's better to think a little bit more long term rather than trying to just get all that stuff right in front of them. And I think the other thing is in context. You're coming up there as an individual to voice your interest and your concerns, and you might feel, some people do feel a little bit like just little old me kind of thing, but a lot of times because you're coming there as just a general citizen, they are going to listen to you, and you know, more maybe even than professional lobbyists or even folks like us, you know, advocacy staff. So take your time, be confident in yourself, and have those conversations. You always want to introduce yourself and say that you're with the Missouri Coalition for Oral Health. You get just some basics. You need to remember to refer to legislators as Senator Smith or Representative Jones. They expect to be asked to do something. They're not surprised by that. Getting an ask is part and parcel of what happens every day. Generally, when you're up in the Capitol building, you should expect interruptions. It's a busy, kind of loud place. There's a lot of tours, you know, school children and others going through there, and legislators get interrupted a lot. You just have to go with the flow. And the other thing I've observed many times is legislators are people, and they're thinking about a lot of stuff up there at in these very complicated jobs that they have. They're thinking about how the process works and who they have to talk to get stuff done and how to push their issues. So it's not unusual for people to bring up issues that are, you know, they're important to them, but they're not what they're there for. And they might even be issues that you're interested in. And if you want to engage with them on that, that's fine. I would just ask that you try to kind of create a little bit of a wall there so that they understand that when you're talking with them about this other issue, that you're really not speaking as part of the coalition. You're speaking as an individual. But there's nothing wrong with that if you have a mutual interest and it comes up in conversation because they're thinking about it. You know, go for it. The other secret to working in the Missouri House and Senate is it's not unusual, even with an appointment, to not end up talking to the legislator. You might be talking to the legislative assistant or the LA. And that's great. There is nothing wrong with that at all, because if you make a connection around this issue with that LA, they can really help, or other staff members. You'll find the senators tend to have more staff. They can really, they're in a position to keep bringing that up, and so that's good. Don't be disappointed if you don't always get with your legislator. If you can do that and have a good conversation and get connected, it's great. One thing about LAs, don't ever call them secretaries. They are not secretaries. They're legislative assistants, and really they're paid staff, and they're up there for a long period of time. These are state employees that have worked in the House and Senate typically for a number of years. They do know how things work, even in a freshman legislator's office, and so that also is very very important. So, and I just want to note, you may get some questions that you can't answer. That's fine. Just tell them, well, I don't know the answer. If you need us to follow up on it, we'll do our best. So we're going to have a feedback survey or a form for you to fill out about your contacts. And if there are those kinds of things that there needs to be some follow up, or it may be something that you can follow up on, that's fine too. But let us know about that stuff. It's also, I've already kind of touched on this, but making a connection on a personal level really is it's a good thing to do with the legislators. So, you know, you kind of have to weigh, I don't have that much time with this person in the case, especially in the case of a legislator. But, you know, if you have 30 seconds of talking about the chiefs and, you know, there's some camaraderie there, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't let it turn into 15 minutes on the chiefs, no matter how tempted you are. Always be polite, thank them for their time. Good basic stuff. I wanted to make some notes about writing. Most communication now happens by email. And so people get hundreds and hundreds of emails. So it's just like you look at your email and you're like, I don't know what all this is. I need to delete most of this. I can't respond to it all. And so if, again, in sort of that vein of getting them to hear what you're saying and getting them to connect with you a little bit, handwritten notes or letters are just great. People do not do this much anymore. And so it's more likely to get a little bit of attention if you take the time to handwrite something to that. In notes in particular, you want to be clear and to the point so they see right in there, you know, what you're after. And so, you know, you want to say, I'm so and so, we met on this date, I talked to you about this bill, I really would like you to vote for that, and thanks so much for considering this, and have a great day. You know, that kind of pointed, very brief stuff. Most of these folks are so busy, they're not going to read everything. If you make a long material, they're not going to read it. Some do, but I would say it's the unusual elected official that'll read through lots of material. Your ask is what you want to get out, and then if you've got a couple of supporting points about why that's important to you, add that. When you meet with people, you may include the legislative priorities list. There's also like a one-page overview of the coalition kind of thing. Kind of oral health is, we have challenges, and then it's got all of our logos on the back. You can leave that with their office as well. And we'll talk about the priorities here in a minute. So what are our priorities? Right on cue. So the great thing is we had in the past what was known as most recently as House Bill 819, and we wanted to get that refiled, and we did that. So that is now House Bill 1040. It's a very, very simple piece of legislation. It would simply require the local decision-making body related to water to get information from their own county health department. So our arguments for this are that we are supporting local decision-making, not interfering at all or even influencing their decision through this legislation, and making sure that they use their own resource. The only entity locally that's concerned with community health is the county health department. So it's a very simple thing. In practice, we find community water fluoridation decisions are made without engaging with the county health department in many instances. And we think that's not a good way to make decisions about something that impacts public health. So that's the point of the bill. It's a very simple piece of legislation. It's a little hard for anyone to be opposed to it. Someone could, but it is very important to support it. So Some of the things you could do up at the Capitol would be to go in and say, please support House Bill 1040. And thank, go to Representative Justice's office. He's a freshman, so he's not in the high rent district in the Capitol. He's down on the first floor, and or is it the second? I'm pretty sure it's the first floor. But thank him for filing that and for moving it forward. And in fact, not only is it filed, but it's going to committee. It has been referred to the House Health and Mental Health Policy Committee, and it's scheduled to be heard on February 21st, so on Tuesday at about 10 a.m. Now, I will tell you, they probably will stick with that, but there are times when, for whatever reason, things get delayed and bumped off to another meeting. It'd be great if you're interested, if you could go testify in favor of it and go on record as saying, I support this bill, please pass it. However, during the pandemic, they created a much easier way for you to provide input on a bill. They did not use this last session, but it's back this year, and you can go online and submit testimony online without ever showing up. That's fantastic. That is very inclusive way to support legislation. So I would urge all of you to go do that. It won't take you long. You don't even have to say that much about it. And there is an email, I believe, has gone out to the entire coalition membership with a couple of talking points on this bill. Obviously, we support community water fluoridation. It is one of the most equitable things that we can do in public dental health, because all community members benefit from it. The bill itself really isn't saying anything about do fluoride or not. It really is just bolstering that decision-making process locally. And so our talking point is, this isn't tell anybody what to do. It makes sure they use their own resource so that they have good information when they make their decisions about community water fluoridation. It is very much a local decision in the state of Missouri. So you should be able to access those talking points through your email inbox. If you didn't get that and you want it, let us know, we'll get it to you. So that's 1040, that's our top priority. Very glad to see it not only filed, but going to a hearing already. That's remarkable. Very happy with that. If all goes well, we do not have a Senate version of that. So if all goes well, it goes through the hearing, gets passed out of committee, goes to the floor, passes the floor vote in the House, then it will go over to the Senate, and we'll have to go through a similar process. So there would be another committee over there and another hearing, and then it would come back. If there are any differences, those have to be worked out, and then it can be passed. We'll see where it goes. It is unusual because we had a break last year. Our champion did not file this for us because we lost our champion. This is kind of like we're starting all over with this again. It's very unusual for a bill to get past the first round out. 3 years is more likely what you see, but we're excited. We'll see where we can go. The other benefit about this bill is the party in power is supporting something related to oral health, and that helps set a tone in the House and Senate. That's very good. So even if the bill doesn't get very far, it's something to feel good about and feel positive about, and we certainly do. We have other priorities as well. There are 2 other pieces of legislation out there that we are supporting. One is House Bill 249. This has been in the legislative body before, but did not get passed. It will allow, that's important, allow dentists to provide vaccine administration. It does not force dentists to do that, but it gives them the option of doing that. We think that is a good add to dental responsibilities, simply because it allows for easier, more convenient, and greater access to vaccines. It seems logical to me that it's perfectly well in the purview of dental professionals to provide vaccines. This is not a bill that we supported, but we did not ask for this to be filed. Unlike 1040, we went and sought people to file with some help from people too. I'll add, we are a coalition, so it wasn't anything I did single-handedly. But this bill is also going to a hearing. It's tentatively scheduled for the in committee for the afternoon of March 8th. So if you are interested in that bill and supporting that bill, you should look the bill up. And by the way, all these bills, you can go to, search Missouri House of Representative and then bill find. You can put in HB 249, just like you can put HB 1040. And I mean, I've included the link here, but obviously you're not going to be writing that link down, but you can search and find that very quickly. And you look up the bill, you go to the bill page, and it will tell you the committee it's been referred to. It may say that it's been scheduled, and it appears that what they're doing this year is that's where you'll find the link, if it's out there, for submitting online testimony. It is out there for 1040. I checked this morning. It's not out there for 249. It may just be too far out for them to have gone to that process. But I'd urge you to think about supporting that bill as well. We think it's a good bill. I do understand there's some opposition to it, and there was opposition previously. We'll just have to see where it goes. But yeah, again, your testimony for that, for these particular policies, these particular bills really do matter, because the more they hear from people that, that they support it, the more likely they are to get a move on and pass it. The other bill is what is now referred to as SCS, Senate Committee Substitute, for Senate Bills 45 and 90. If you're not used to this language, it's kind of part of the process. So what has happened here is there were two very similar bills, one filed by Senator Gannon and one filed by Senator McCreary, and they combined them. The committee that heard these bills combined them and created what is called a Senate Committee Substitute. And so that combined legislation is out there in play. We are hearing that there is, in addition to being a lot of bipartisan support for this bill, we're also hearing that there's leadership support. This would extend Mo Health Net benefits for pregnant women. And so we've supported this in this kind of legislation in the past, and we'd very much like to see it passed. Again, look up the bill. Haven't heard anything about this one being assigned to a committee as of yet. Well, it went through the one Senate, but we don't know about the next step beyond that, I should say. So those are the pieces of legislation we're interested in. And then we're interested in something much more vague, a little harder to ask for. We have requested that someone agree to chair the what is known as the Missouri Legislative Oral Health Caucus. And we haven't gotten anywhere. So if you're going around, ask them to hold a meeting to caucus. The caucus is simply a meeting that's held within the legislative body. It's informal. It's not a committee meeting that would hear bills and pass bills and all that. It really is just an opportunity to talk about an issue. This was originally chaired by Representative Donna Lichtenegger, and then by Senator Wayne Wallingford, and then later he became a representative. And then he was tapped by the governor to run revenue, which he is doing now. it's typically one meeting a session, but it gives a great opportunity to raise awareness of the issues. It's much more about that education component that we talked about earlier. And what we like to do with that is get them to hold a meeting, invite all the senators and the reps. They will not all show up. It'll just be in a hearing room, but then have the state dental director do an overview for them to say, here's the challenges, here are the things that the Office of Dental Health is working on, and this is where we're trying to go with this stuff. So it's important. My sense is we're probably not going to get anybody to hold a meeting because we're already into February. But it doesn't hurt to ask. They'll see that there's interest in this, and we might get lucky and get somebody to take it up, or it might be next year. We don't know at this point. So the email that went out earlier would have a feedback form for everybody who was registered to go to the awareness event. That's very important because we want to know who you talk to. We want to collect everybody, and you can fill that. It's very simple. You fill out one for every contact you have. Went to Representative so-and-so's office, spoke to the LA. They said they support 1040. That's it, and then turn it in at the desk. I don't know about a link to the form. I think aligned to that line. I think we're relying on paper this year. One thing you can do to get ready is schedule appointments with your senators and representatives. And one thing you might want to think about is not only your senator and your representative, but going back to 1040, when you go to that page, you can see which committee it went to, and then you can see who those committee members are. So those are great people to talk to about 1040 because you're directly interacting with the folks that are going to vote it out of committee. Maybe we'll get lucky. They'll have it passed already by the time we go up there. That is possible. It is possible, but no reason to not bring it up. Melissa tells me we will have paper forms, or you can complete them online. So I didn't entirely lie. So I kind of covered this before, but even if you get an appointment, you might miss your senator or representative, LA or staffers, great, even an intern. It's not unusual to have an appointment. You go up there and the office is locked. It's not only that the rep isn't there, but the office is locked up. Don't let it stop you. That's just the way things work. Come back by when you get a chance. Go walk around, try to visit somebody else. Another thing that happens sometimes is the LA will say, well, Representative so-and-so isn't here, but I'd be happy to pull them off the floor or take you to a committee room. They generally go into session about 10. There's often committee meetings in the morning before that. And the LA can go ask the senator or the rep to step to the side gallery or out into the hallway. And then I think the pressure's a little bit more there personally because it's noisy and you're trying to have a little bit quicker conversation and get to your ask pretty quickly. And then leaving those materials, I think, becomes a little bit more important. And they will do the same thing with committees. Sometimes they'll pull somebody out into a hallway. Typically, the LA will walk you to wherever it is you need to go. Not always, but if you don't know where they're telling you to go, then they ask for assistance. Like, where is that? How do I get there? It's a big building. It's kind of like walking around in a multi-floor mall. And it's very noisy. And again, visit with other legislators. Walk in cold and say who you are and, you know, thank them gratefully for taking a minute with you, but, you know, go ahead and ask them, you know, your asks. It won't hurt. So MCOH overview, we've made this even briefer than it used to be, contrary to what I told you before about people not reading things. We had a very busy document. The backside of that document, I think, is probably almost more important than the information on the front. But I relented and we simplified it, so now it's easier to read. I still don't think most of them are going to read the whole thing. I often hand that out with the backside up because what it has is logos of many of the organizations that are involved in the coalition. And what that establishes is that when we're speaking about something, there's an awful lot of people that are very supportive of this. So that's a good thing to do. But really the document just says oral health is an important policy issue. It's poor in Missouri, and we can address them. We should address it, and policymakers need to do things. And it's of interest as a policy issue to many organizations and individuals, just not just me coming in and talking to you, but a bunch of people. They do pay attention to logos. Yes, so where will I be? I will be on the 3rd floor alcove on the Senate side. You'll see on here, can you all see my cursor moving around there? I'm not going to assume you can, since no one's answering me. These red X's there, this is what down here at the bottom of the image. Hey, someone responded. All right, thank you, Tony. So this is what's called the grand staircase here. This is up on the 3rd floor, and that's where the House chamber and the Senate chambers are. This area in the middle. This is the lobby, where the lobbyists lobby. They hang out with each other. I don't spend time in there very much, but if you got pulled off to the side, it's from either of the bodies, it would be in these hallways. The legislative library. So the top part of the building is facing the river, and this legislative library was just closed more or less permanently because they found some structural issues with the ceiling. I'm sure they will figure out a way to get that fixed. But the grand staircase, which is indeed quite grand. You won't be coming up that staircase. If you walk up, you'll come up one of these side things, and then there's elevators down on these two ends. But if you come up the stairs, you have to do kind of a U-turn. We should be on the Senate side in what they call the alcove. They're big pillars there. These are also very noisy places. They have switched me at the last minute before and thrown me on the other side. So just come up there and look around. And of course, you don't necessarily have to touch base with me. If you have printed your forms and your material, you're fine. But I will have copies of the legislative priorities, the one-page overview, and the feedback forms up there for you. By the way, these room numbers that are in here, they kind of give you the lay of the land for the other floors of the building. You know, so you're going to have that 100, you know, in there on that side. So just, you know, you don't have to. It's these maps that are available are not all that detailed, but anyway, this is where we'll be, Senate side. In this alcove. If you don't see me there, I might be over here. You know, but just we'll see what happens. A couple of other things, logistical wise, parking can be a pretty darn good challenge up near the Capitol. Our parking fines, the last time I got one, was pretty minimal. when I first moved to Jeff many years ago, parking fines were like $2, and some of the professional lobbyists were like, that's just really cheap parking. I'm just going to go ahead and get a bunch of tickets. I would not advise that strategy. And so you want to pay very close attention to the meters and the don't park here and all that. It is an amazing hodgepodge of opportunities for parking. You'll have 1 hour parking, 2 hour parking, 3 and 4. You'll have areas that look like around the circle drive around the Capitol look like you could park there, but if you look closely, there's a sign there saying, no, don't ever park here unless you're, in this particular category. So if you're going to park up there, pay attention. DoubleTree's a little bit of a walk, but it might be a better option for you if you can arrange your time to do it that way. You can find parking in and around the Capitol, though it might, allow a little extra time for that because you just never know. Typically, earlier there's more parking than later in the day. You typically go into the building. There's a big, opposite the riverside, there's a big set of stairs outside, and you will go under that and then through there, and you're going to go through security very much like an airport. And so they're going to have you empty your pockets and all that. It's usually pretty quick, but you do again need to allow a little extra time for that. Sometimes there's lines there if there's a lot of people coming in, so you just need to give yourself a little time to get through that process. And then I kind of showed you where those elevators are. So when you get through security, you can walk out in that first hallway. You can go to the right or the left, and you will find elevators down near the ends of those hallways, and can take those up. The stairs are kind of like if you come out and then turn right around, do a UE either to the right or the left, you'll find the staircase to take you up to the other floors. There is, if you walked out of the security area and just went straight to the area underneath the dome in the center of the building, there's an information desk right there before you get into the opening for the dome, and they're usually very helpful with information if you're needing some assistance about how to get to A, B, or C. I will be up there around 8 a.m. hopefully well before 8 a.m. and I'll be there roughly 90 minutes because our conference is really starting at 10:30. I'm not going to dawdle up there too long. So I will be there. I'll have materials. I probably, unless it just looks ridiculous, I probably will leave copies of materials in there when I leave, and somebody will just have to clean up later, which I don't think is anything unusual for groups to do that. Again, legislative priorities overview in the feedback form. And again, I'd mentioned they usually go into session about 10 a.m. That's a good time to exit because it does get harder to get a hold of people after that. My own personal opinion. If you want to stay up there longer, you certainly can, and you might find you're getting them that way. Again, follow through after a visit. Do a thank you note. It'll make a great impression. And again, the handwritten note, that may just be the thing that makes them remember you and considers you a friendly person to talk to. Just some things, the envelope, the Honorable Senator Will Smith, and then you can get their room numbers off the website just by looking them up. And don't hesitate to reach out to us with questions. So that's kind of my spiel. We have, no, I didn't really want to escape that. Okay, well, that's obnoxious. So this is where Ashley's running the background of this is very important. We do not have a big group on here. I would be up for taking questions and responses to these questions either through chat, Q&A, or if you'd like us to let you open your mic. Our default position with an actual webinar is to silence everyone, but we got a small group on here. I'd be happy to let you speak. So if you would like us to do that or have questions now, go ahead and put those. But in terms of discussion questions, what concerns do you have in regards to talking with elected officials? And like, there's no wrong answer to this. Just throw it out there. I mean, I will tell you, when I first started talking to elected officials, I found it kind of odd and stilted, and I wasn't very comfortable with it. And then I learned, oh, they expect an ask, and they expect to hear from people, and they kind of like it. A lot of senators and reps, to me, seem to really enjoy these conversations. They like meeting people from around the state, and they like knowing what the interests are. But it can feel unusual if you've never done it before. I'm not seeing any responses to that. Anyone want to jump out there? I think Katie probably ought to. I'm just going to start calling out individuals to pick on. No, that's not going to work.
If you want to be unmuted, just use the raise hand feature and I'll unmute you.
That sounds good. Thank you, Ashley. Just a few other notes down here while you're thinking up things. Your voice can really make much more of a difference than you've ever thought. They do listen to people. They actually do. This is one of the most democratic of processes you will ever personally engage in. My argument is it's more essential to democracy even than voting itself is, because you're really engaging directly with an elected official and telling them what you think. Amanda, this will be my first time, but I want to be more involved. What you're describing now is my biggest concern. I'm not a big small talker and think it will feel awkward. Well, I would, how can I put this? I would let yourself, I mean, first of all, I very much appreciate your comment. I would allow yourself to be a little awkward with it, because it is kind of stilted. But the way I started thinking about this when I first did this kind of thing, that's a good idea, Tony. I'll read your comment in a second, but it's not unlike talking to your neighbor. Your neighbor lives right there. You want to get along with them, so you just have a little conversation over the fence. It's very much like that, except that you're getting to a stilted, rather stilted question. Vote for House Bill 1040. That kind of thing. That's not a kind of a typical conversational piece, but I think at some level you just have to let your, be okay with the fact that you're a little nervous with it. It's okay. It's just the way it is. And Tony, the other thing Tony Meyercord suggested is go with somebody who is more comfortable with this, and you can find them by connecting with them now, or that morning, get up there early. And I think Tony's planning on going, so you could go with her. That would be one suggestion right there. But I mean, going with somebody, there's nothing wrong with going with someone who is used to this kind of thing, and you can learn from them immediately. And if two people walk in and one person, you introduce both yourselves, and then one person does all the talking, what they're going to think is they think this is a really important issue, and that's fine. So you don't have to be commanding or even the lead on it. So hopefully that will help you. I'd be glad to talk with you individually about this stuff too, but yeah, it's a little stilted. It's a little odd. Also, the building, being in the building, if you're not used to being there, I think it's it's loud, it's a little overstimulating for a lot of people, and it's a little intimidating. A lot of the, there's a lot kind of, the building is pomp and circumstance, so that's kind of off-putting in some ways. Katie, I may have missed it due to a little multitasking. Well, who can blame you? But did we discuss House bills related to pregnancy benefit extension? We did, yes. That would be on our legislative priorities list. It's at the Senate committee substitute level now because there were 2 bills filed. Seems to be a lot of support, including leadership. And the bill numbers I do not have memorized, but it will be on those legislative priorities. It's yeah, I don't have a hard copy of our legislative priorities. Someone else want to put the bill numbers out there? Okay, so Dr. Dumble is also asking about pairing up. So Tony, are you willing to get an entourage? It looks like Carmen Vaughn is also offering that. I think it's simply a matter of determining a time to meet up. That you could meet up downstairs just past security. That's an easy place to catch everyone. Or up on the 3rd floor in that side thing where I'm going to be. That's a good place to meet up too. And I will be there for questions and stuff. So that's good. So Mary has a question about the caucus. Representative Lichtenegger was term limited a long time ago, and Wayne Wallingford is running revenue. So no, neither of them are available. Donna's been out for a long time. They're not really in the legislative arena anymore, so there's really no point in talking to either one of them. They're not elected people. Lots of talk about connections there. Are you guys sure you wouldn't want me to take you off mic so you can work that out? Senate Bill 45 and 90 is correct for the Show Me Healthy Babies legislation. Ashley put in the chat. Yeah. Okay, those are all good questions. So somebody share, let's see, where's my list? Well, I think Tony told me she's done this before. Tony has her hand up. Could you unmute her, Ashley?
You should be able to speak, Tony.
You will have to unmute yourself locally, though.
That is hilarious. Okay, yeah. Let me lower my hand here. The Missouri Dental Hygiene Association was there on February 8th advocating, and I was able to see a couple of my senator and representative, which are really neat guys. It'd be lovely to go back to them and just kind of say, hey, here I am again, and this is just as important as that. So that was my plan. And so I'm happy to have a tag along, or I think that our senator is pretty neat. And so I'm happy to help out. I guess I can put my email in there if someone's interested. I know Carmen was there, and she is the legislative chair for the Missouri Dental Hygiene Association as well. Katie is excellent as well. So just whatever to make people comfortable. People made me comfortable. And so I just wanted to offer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. That's fantastic. That's what we like to see. I think the other thing is if you go out there and you make a contact and you feel like it didn't go real well, come back and talk to me about it a little bit. I'll be up there for a while. I mean, I would tell you to not worry about it too much. They literally have hundreds of people come in their offices, so it all kind of flows down river pretty quickly. And I actually don't know how it would go all that badly, but yeah, we do have some experienced people, and Tony and Carmen, both of you, thanks for stepping up there. I think that's helpful to give less experienced people an opportunity to be a part of this. All right. So we got a couple other questions here. What successes and challenges have you had in previous legislative visits? So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any comments about that, but I would say I have been surprised to find that I was kind of developing almost a friendship with an elected official, just because we kind of clicked and chatted about things. And you know, that's a success, I think, and as well as just making the whole process a little bit more enjoyable. Challenges, I mean, at the same time, I've gone into offices at times when it's obviously a stress point for them and maybe for the entire legislature, and they are distracted, they're interrupted a lot. You can kind of see the stress on their faces, and sometimes it's pretty hard to cut through all that noise and get them to pay attention. You go ahead and do your thing and move on, because it's obvious it's not a great time, but you leave your material and figure you'll circle back with them later. That's where that follow-up letter, that little note that we're suggesting, really starts to matter, because it really gives you another opportunity to communicate with them. And you can always call that office back too. You can ask for a phone conversation with somebody, and they'll get on and chat with you for a little bit. They don't mind doing that. All right, you probably are all seeing the chat from Carmen. So that, again, that's great. That's great. Thank you all so much. Anybody else with comments about challenges or successes? And at the same time, is there anything else we can do to help with advocacy outreach? I will tell you this. If you go into the House and Senate and talk to a few people and you've never done it before, it's going to be much easier the next time. And it also will make you easier to advocate on a local level. So if you're in a community where there is a fluoridation issue, for example, it'll make it easier for you to approach the city council, water board, or the county commission, because there apparently are a variety of mechanisms for decision-making bodies locally. So you kind of have to find out who actually is the decision maker. But it gets to be a little, I mean, if you've been to the Capitol, it's a lot less intimidating to go to the county commission or water board or the city council meeting and talk to someone. They don't have as much gravitas as the folks in the Capitol have. Anybody else want to share their experience?
Gary, can I throw one thing in?
Sure, please do.
Just always be authentic whenever you're talking with your legislators. They're people just like the rest of us, and like Gary said earlier, they are expecting an ask. So if you can have your 2 or 3 main talking points in mind before you go in, that'll kind of ease some of the nerves the first couple of times. Yeah. But really just be yourself, and just know that they're just another individual looking to have a conversation with you.
That's very well put. That's exactly right. I mean, if you really, you know, for me, I think preparation helps. So if I'm more nervous about something, and I can kind of write down a few things ahead of time and look at those and go, okay, well, I'm going to say this, and this. That makes it easier to do, and then I'll, you get a little bit of an acknowledgement with that and say thank you and leave. Of course, you never know. You might get interrupted and you have to start over, or they might have questions. And again, it's okay if you can't answer a question. You're not putting yourself out there as the person who is the answer to everything related to these issues. And they know that. They know people don't know everything. Well, now we're at the point, I think people are just wanting to get off the webinar early by not asking questions. Any other questions? Tony has provided her phone number in there. That's really, really great, Tony. Thank you for doing that. This is if you are wanting to see things operate differently than they do now, this is important. The way the world works, including all of these people that are unable to access care, is the result of a series of decisions about how policy works and who has what benefit where, far more than it has anything to do with personal and individual decisions. So when you go after making policy changes, you are actually changing the context in which people operate. And what we're trying to do is make it easier for people to go get healthcare. Oral health is healthcare. We're trying to remove barriers so that they can access it. Will we get 100% of people to get healthcare? Probably not. People being people, there's lots of things going on with people, but we can certainly get the majority where they can get the care that they need. Excuse me. Other questions? Comments? Snide remarks? All right. Well, I think we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for being part of this. Reach out to us with questions. We'll be glad to help. And it is not just me. There's our information. There's a chat. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. info@oralhealthmissouri.org. Use that email if you have some questions. So we all monitor that and we'll try to respond. And then again, thank you for being here, and thank you all for everything you do for Missouri Oral Health. You can find our website, www.oralhealthmissouri.org. We're also on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. We look forward to seeing you that morning, and we look forward to seeing you at the conference. We have a great conference planned. It will be challenging and exciting and a great place to network with people from around the state who are concerned about oral health like you are. So we look forward to seeing you there. I believe that there will be a survey link that will come out to you related to this shortly. And if you'd take a few minutes to complete that, we'd appreciate that. Am I missing anything, Ashley?
Your continuing education credits, if you're looking for those, are in that survey. So you'll have to complete the survey to obtain your certificate.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to sign off and let you all go. Thank you very much. And you know, we're going to keep doing the right thing and move things in the right direction with your help. All right. Goodbye, everyone.